What do you call a ghost's boobies? Paranormal entities. The movie starts with a football game where the NYPD team, led by Jimmy Egan, is ahead 14-10. The coach encourages Jimmy to maintain their lead, and Jimmy motivates his team to win. Ray Tierney and his brother Francis Jr., along with Megan Egan, watch the game. They celebrate their victory, but the celebration is cut short when Francis Jr. receives a call about the death of 4 officers from his division. Francis Jr. and Ray hurry to a crime scene where they find a chaotic apartment with dead bodies scattered everywhere. As an injured officer is carried away, Jimmy arrives from the football game, becomes furious at the sight of the deceased cops, and then isolates himself in a bathroom where he cries and smashes a mirror in distress. Francis Sr., a high-ranking police official, is also there, taking charge and giving orders. At the hospital, Ray and Jimmy are present when an officer, a friend to many, dies, leaving his wife in despair. Ray retreats to the bathroom to take some prescription pills. There, Francis Sr. advises Ray to join the task force investigating the officers' murders. Ray feels unprepared, partly due to past events that led him to work in missing persons, but his father insists, arguing that the deceased would have done the same for Ray. Ultimately, his father persuades him to join the task force. The scene shifts to the alley of the crime. Ray and another task force officer notice blood trails leading from a window, suggesting the shooter was injured and escaped by car. They discover a cell phone in the snow and review profiles of 6 main suspects. When an officer mentions needing someone who speaks Spanish to communicate with a potential child witness, Ray volunteers. In a convenience store, he calms down an agitated man speaking Spanish and persuades the man's wife to lead him to the child witness. Ray wakes up a child sleeping on a couch to question him. From the conversation, they learn that the shooter was bleeding from the stomach and appeared frightened. When shown photos, the child identifies the shooter as Angel Tezo. He also mentions the getaway vehicle was a white 4-door car, resembling a taxi but not yellow. The scene shifts to an abandoned car in a green, non-industrial area where Jimmy, Kenny, Sandy, and Eddie are investigating. It's revealed that they were involved in a botched deal aimed at killing Tezo and seizing some money. However, Tezo escaped, killed their associates, took the money, and also killed the driver. Knowing Tezo can identify them and is aware they're after him, they decide to hunt him down. Their conversation reveals they're corrupt cops involved in drugs and dirty money. They conclude the scene by setting the car and its contents on fire. Tezo is at a safe house, getting his stomach wound stitched by a doctor, while his associates count money. Tezo, who has a short temper, frequently yells at the doctor. After the doctor finishes, they pay him, but then Tezo, given a potato by his girlfriend, uses it as a makeshift silencer to shoot the doctor while kissing her. Meanwhile, Ray, on his houseboat, examines crime scene photos and notices something odd. One of the deceased men was missing bootlaces and a belt, raising questions about the circumstances. Despite making calls to investigate, he doesn't uncover much. The next day, Ray approaches a townhouse intending to knock, but instead leaves a small gift on the porch and walks away. His wife opens the door as he leaves, highlighting their estrangement and revealing they're a month away from divorce. Despite mutual care, she can't continue with the relationship, and they part ways with sadness. Elsewhere, Eddie and Sandy enter a convenience store, clear it out, and aggressively interrogate the cashier for information on Tezo, threatening his life if he doesn't comply within 24 hours. Demonstrating his instability, Eddie pretends to execute the cashier with an unloaded gun, then they steal all the money from the register. Francis Jr.'s wife Abby is sitting on the bed. She has a bald head and looks very sick. She takes some pills and Francis comes out, asking her if she wants to do this party. She says she wouldn't miss it for anything. During a bustling holiday scene at home, with cooking and eager children, Francis Jr. deeply expresses his love to his sick wife, Abby, with a ring, moving her nearly to tears. As the family gathers and starts opening gifts, the atmosphere is warm. However, at the dinner table, a very drunk Francis Sr. unevenly praises his children, highlighting Ray's intelligence and Megan's compassion, while barely acknowledging Francis Jr. and Jimmy. This creates an uncomfortable silence. Later, Francis Jr. and Jimmy discuss the situation quietly, with Francis Jr. expressing concern over the family dynamics and Jimmy assuring control, yet withholding details. At the house previously associated with Tezo, another shooting occurs, and the scene cuts to Ray finding the victims shot execution style. Tezo's girlfriend, earlier seen with the potato, divulges under pressure that a police officer named Sandy tipped off Tezo. Ray keeps this revelation from the other detectives and leaves quietly. During a large funeral for the fallen officers, with Francis Jr. playing a significant role, Ray confronts him afterward about potential corruption in his division. The conversation escalates when Ray mentions Sandy, a name given by Tezo's girlfriend, indicating an inside informant. Despite Ray's probing, Francis Jr. appears evasive and denies knowing anyone by that nickname, leading to a strained parting between the brothers. Francis Sr. talks to Ray on his boat, inquiring about the tension with his brother. Ray shares his suspicions about corruption, but his father advises caution to avoid chaos and emphasizes protecting family. Ray is uncomfortable with the idea, but agrees under his father's directive. In the police showers, Francis Jr. confronts Sandy alone. Sandy breaks down, admitting his role in Jimmy's illegal activities, including drug deals and arranged killings, specifically targeting Tezo to facilitate a new alliance with Casado. Shocked to learn his brother-in-law's involvement, Francis Jr. is further surprised by Sandy's belief that he was aware of these actions, which were seemingly common knowledge. Francis Jr. demands Sandy's resignation, threatening his pension, and declares that Sandy is no longer part of the force. The scene closes with Sandy devastated on the shower floor. Abby is overwhelmed with sadness as she watches her children, knowing her time is limited due to her illness. As she tries to compose herself, Francis Jr. sits in his car outside, too upset to come in immediately. Meanwhile, Jimmy and his wife are enjoying a playful time with their kids, showing off new entertainment like a foosball table and a large TV. However, the mood shifts when a threatening figure, Casado, arrives asking for Jimmy. Jimmy confronts Casado outside, where Casado complains about Jimmy failing to fulfill a deal to eliminate Tezo. The confrontation escalates until Jimmy aggressively warns Casado against threatening his family or coming near his home again. Jimmy and his team aggressively enter the home of Tezo's associate during dinner, demanding Tezo's location. When the man refuses to divulge any information, they escalate their intimidation by threatening harm to his infant, prompting the mother to plead for her child's safety. Under this extreme duress, the man reveals Tezo's whereabouts, and Jimmy leaves the child unharmed. Meanwhile, Ray locates a former confidential informant, a drug user, and after confiscating and damaging the informant's drugs, he obtains information on Tezo's location. Ray alerts the task force to converge on a location where he suspects Tezo is hiding. Arriving first, he hears gunshots inside the building. Guided by frightened tenants, Ray finds his way to the scene, discovering a body and hearing commotion. In a bathroom, he sees Jimmy attempting to kill Tezo with a nightstick. Ray intervenes, trying to save Tezo, but Jimmy takes Ray's gun and fatally shoots Tezo, then instructs Ray to claim he killed Tezo in defense of the officers Tezo had killed. Shocked by Jimmy's actions and the cover-up demand, Ray confronts Jimmy's rationale, emphasizing their duty as police officers. Afterward, a distressed Ray recounts the incident to Francis Jr. outside his boathouse, questioning Francis's earlier denial about knowing Sandy. Francis probes Ray about his next steps, but Ray, overwhelmed and seeking to cleanse himself of the ordeal, heads into his boathouse, leaving the conversation unresolved. Francis Jr. is visibly troubled while preparing a bath for his sick wife Abby, who senses his distress and urges him to open up. Admitting his deep entanglement in a situation with no clear resolution, and fearing the collapse of everything he's built, Abby reassures him of his goodness and her trust in him, emphasizing the importance of his role as a father. In a bustling newspaper office, the buzz is about the brutal details of Tezo's murder, including the unique evidence of splinters found in his throat. A reporter receives an anonymous tip and meets the caller, Sandy, looking disheveled, in a rainy parking lot. Despite assurances of no recording, the reporter secretly tapes their conversation. Sandy, without naming names, implicates widespread corruption among the police, admitting to murders, drug dealing, and bribes. He expresses his initial aspirations of integrity in policing, lamenting how it all went wrong. The meeting ends tragically as Sandy commits suicide in the reporter's car, leaving a shocking scene and a story of corruption ready to be exposed. At a press conference, the police blame the recent vigilante actions on 4 deceased officers in Sandy. During a tense conversation, Francis Sr. questions his son Francis Jr. about his knowledge of the corruption. Francis Jr. admits to knowing enough but defends his integrity, stating he never accepted bribes, which leaves Francis Sr. distressed as he denies ever taking bribes himself. Ray, while eating street food in a shitty part of New York City, notices he's being followed. He confronts the follower, who turns out to be the reporter aware of the corruption within the police department, including Ray's past lie to protect fellow officers. The reporter expresses a desire to expose the truth about the corruption in Francis Jr.'s division, not to target Ray. Feeling betrayed and agitated, Ray walks away in a mix of anger and frustration. Francis Jr. confronts Jimmy in a bar bathroom about excessive corruption and warns him not to expect Ray to lie for them to internal affairs. Jimmy offers Francis Jr. a share of their illicit earnings, but Francis Jr. rejects it and leaves, with Jimmy feeling the weight of their situation. Ray, woken up with a call to provide a statement to internal affairs, reluctantly goes in despite hoping for more time. He finds a crowd of reporters and protesters outside, outraged by the details of Tezo's death. Inside, despite mutual respect with the IAB, Ray refuses to say he shot Tezo and declines to give further information, choosing to stay true to himself and his principles over compromising his integrity. Francis Sr. watches a video where Jimmy claims Ray killed Tezo and insists Ray is lying, with another high-ranking officer mentioning several officers are ready to back Jimmy's story. Realizing Ray is being framed, Francis Sr. defends his son's integrity and leaves the room disturbed. Ray and Francis Sr. argue over how Ray should proceed, with the debate centering on the desire to protect the police department's image versus Ray's refusal to repeat a past lie he was coerced into by his father. The argument escalates, even driving away Francis Sr.'s wife. As Francis Sr. nearly demands Ray to stick with Jimmy's false narrative, Francis Jr. interrupts, deciding to expose the corruption within his division and support Ray in setting the record straight. Together, they plan to confront Jimmy at a bar named Irish Eyes. Eddie, ignoring Kenny's advice to lay low as per Jimmy's instructions, attempts to rob a convenience store again, but is shot in the process. The commotion draws attention, leading to a chaotic scene when Kenny, in a panic, mistakenly shoots a bystander he thought was armed. This act escalates the situation as angry locals begin to vandalize the scene, blaming the police for recent violence. Trapped and desperate, Kenny takes the store owner hostage. Francis Jr. is informed of the situation involving Kenny. Ray decides to handle Jimmy, while Francis Jr. is tasked with resolving the situation with Kenny. Kenny, in a state of panic, unsuccessfully tries to contact Jimmy for help. Francis Jr. approaches Kenny, managing to calm him down and persuades him to surrender, promising to help him through the situation. Francis Sr. receives a call from an officer seeking to arrest Ray, but denies Ray's presence, despite Ray's car being visible outside. He refuses the officer entry into his home. At a bar, Jimmy reflects on his family with sorrow, drinking alone. Ray enters, shows his badge, and demands the patrons leave. He confronts Jimmy about correcting their wrongs, with both men disarming themselves of guns, badges, and handcuffs, agreeing to settle their dispute with a physical fight, the winner to arrest the loser. Their brawl damages the bar and disperses Jimmy's family photos. The fight intensifies on a pool table, where Ray, seemingly at a disadvantage, manages to overpower Jimmy using a cue ball, leaving Jimmy incapacitated and Ray, though injured, in a better position. Francis Jr. successfully calms Kenny down, leading him out of the store and into safety, amidst a neighborhood angered by police actions. The tension is partially fueled by Tezo's associate, who nearly lost his child to Jimmy's intimidation tactics. While the crowd's anger doesn't fully subside, Kenny's departure leads to some dispersal. Ray, having subdued Jimmy, is confronted by the same enraged crowd, which now demands justice against Jimmy. Tezo's right-hand man, in particular, seeks vengeance. Despite Ray's efforts, the crowd separates him from Jimmy, with Ray forced to watch as Jimmy accepts his fate. Armed with a baseball bat, Jimmy chooses not to defend himself against the man with a crowbar. After a brutal assault, Jimmy is left severely beaten by the crowd, with Ray powerless to intervene, forcibly silenced by a punch when he tries to protest. After witnessing a violent confrontation, Ray makes his way to where the hostage situation has nearly concluded. Despite the commotion, Francis Jr. notices Ray's arrival and goes to support him. Though no dialogue is heard due to the overlay of music, it's clear from their exchange that Ray recounts the incident with Jimmy to his brother. Together, they leave the scene in a car. Later, Ray, Francis Jr., and Francis Sr., dressed in their formal police uniforms, arrive at a courthouse surrounded by media. Sharing a moment of understanding, they exit the car and ascend the courthouse steps as a united front. The scene closes with them entering the courthouse, reflected in the revolving door, where they're seen greeting the prosecutors, indicating their readiness to testify about the events. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.